Hello, this is Dan Farisi, Group Editor, Commercial and Security with Emerald. So happy to be joined today by Bradford Dempsey, who is CEO and founder of Solutions360. This conversation is going to be about how commercial integrators, Solutions360, are focusing on helping you run a better, more efficient, more profitable business. And that really is what we're all about. That's what Solutions360 is about. That's what Commercial Integrator is reason for being. So thank you so much, Bradford, for being here today, giving us an opportunity to talk about how you can run a better, more effective business.
Well, thank you. I'm very excited to be here. It's a subject I'm very, very passionate about. So it's a great opportunity. Thank you.
Our pleasure. As you know, NSCA, Commercial Integrator, have a really strong partnership. I talk to Tom LeBlanc, Chuck Wilson all the time, and very frequently we lament that integrators are so busy working in their business, in the trenches, day to day, that they sometimes hardly have time to work on their business as a business. Do you want to define that challenge a little bit? What does that quote really mean in the real world? That people just don't have time to work on their business, or so it seems.
Sure. I imagine a lot of people don't realize, but I first heard that term almost 40 years ago. And I think it was introduced by a book called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And he talks about the concept of working on busy things in the business, basically executing things, what he calls falling into the role of the technician. We're just busy fixing things as opposed to working on the business, where we're looking more at, and we like to divide it into three areas, people, process, and tools. What is the structure of the business? What's the strategy? What's the vision? What are the things that we can do which actually build a better and stronger business?
If the goal is to build a better and stronger business, I believe that Solutions360 and you have some tips that integrators can deploy. And I think it's basically on different time scales, right? Some more immediate, some longer term. Do you want to go into each of those tips that integrators can leverage to run better, stronger, more robust businesses?
Sure. I'll leave you with three tips. And I'm going to break it down into one that takes days to implement, one that may take weeks, and one that may take months to implement. So from a day's perspective, I think the first time we're introduced to many integrators, one of the first things we see is that many of them are not valuing their labor correctly. And we call this the labor burden, or understanding how to price their labor. And to give you an example, let's say a technician is making $25 an hour. Well, you can break that into the 2,080 hours a year that technician works, but then you have to add all the other things like taxes and healthcare and liability insurance and all those other things. Then on top of that, that employee has a certain number of days during the year, especially when they're salaried, where they're getting paid, but they're not actually producing revenue for the business. So those are paid time off, holidays, et cetera. So right away, we're cutting down that 2,080 hours to about 1,800 hours. Then on top of that, we have something called utilization. And that is that, it's very important that you look at how much of that time is being spent in revenue generating opportunities for your business. And that doesn't mean that you're necessarily invoicing for every minute they're working. They may be working on a service contract where you're getting revenue from the customer. But the key is they're revenue generating. And, good companies quite often are only in the 80% range for that utilization. What that basically means is that tech that's making $25 an hour realistically is costing you closer to $50 an hour. So item one is to really understand what your labor really costs, and then use that when you're rolling out your projects and you're trying to figure out your profitability. The second item takes a little longer because there's a little more analysis involved. And the other area where we see a lot of integrators burning up value is in pre-sales engineering. Now, as we know in the integration business, those engineers are some of the most skilled, some of the most expensive resources we have. And when we deploy them to help us make sales, that's a very important function.
Mm-hmm.
But how much does that really cost us? And what percentage of the value of that sale is eaten up with pre-sales engineering? And then on top of that, are we rolling that pre-sales engineering cost into the overall profitability of our completed project if we win it? And then finally, if we're not winning deals, how much of our engineering cost is going towards deals that we just didn't win? Finally, and this one is really important, but it takes much longer because there's analysis, there's multiple departments involved, and there's multiple areas you have to focus on. And that's the estimate the way you deliver. And what I mean by that is everything from the building blocks we just talked about, which is, understanding your true labor costs, understanding your pre-sales costs, and then building that into your estimating process. So the way you estimate, the way you break it down as far as material, labor, phases, WBS, maps out to the way you actually execute the work that you do. Because if you do that, you get a feedback loop that allows you to estimate more accurately. And it's not always about coming up with the lowest estimates, it's about coming up with the most accurate estimates. So that when you actually deliver your work, you're not losing margin, you're not losing profitability. And quite often it means you can estimate more competitively because you do truly understand your costs. So.
That is such an important point as well. And that's another thing that the NSCA executives and I frequently talk about, the idea that your estimates or your forecasts may not actually bear out. And you don't want to be halfway down a project life cycle or all the way down a project life cycle. And then you end up, unfortunately, surprised by how things turn out. So critically important. So Bradford, for those who want to perhaps leverage Solutions 360's offerings or just learn more about this whole idea of working on your business, not just busily working in your business, what's the best way they can reach out to you? We reach out to Solutions 360, leverage the power of the solutions that you bring to the table to run their business better, more effectively, and more profitably.
Well, obviously, you can visit us at solutions360.com. I'm on LinkedIn. And we also have a division called Navigate Management Consulting. It's a company we acquired a couple of years ago. But Navigate has an academy, navigateacademy.net. And all NSCA members have free membership to Navigate Academy. So I think that's a great resource. And we talk about all three of those areas: people, process, and tools. There's great material there, a lot of recorded stuff, and a lot of live sessions. So I'd encourage them to visit Navigate Academy as well.
Well, thank you so much, Bradford, for joining me today, talking about really critically important topics. I know integrators are working harder than ever, but it's equally important, I think, to work as smart as ever, as smartly as possible to make the most of all of that work, all of that exertion. I think Solutions 360, the tips that you have given, will empower integrators to start moving in that direction, which is very, very favorable for the industry as a whole.
Yeah, well, thanks, Dan. And thank you for what you do for the industry. I think it's very important that we get these messages out. So thank you.
Thank you for what you do and what Solutions 360 does. Pleasure to be joined by Bradford Dempsey, who is CEO and founder of Solutions 360. My name is Dan Farisi, Group Editor, Commercial and Security with Emerald. Please check back on commercialintegrator.com regularly for more exciting and business-benefiting thought leadership content just like this. Until next time, thank you once again for tuning in.